You probably learned about Black History Month in school. You know the big names, the key dates, and the major events. But what if I told you the real story of Black History Month is far more radical than you've been led to believe? That its origins aren't just about celebration, but about a revolutionary act of resistance against a history that was being deliberately erased. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the moments and masterminds your textbooks left out. These are the 7 deep facts about Black History Month you weren't taught. Fact number 1. It didn't start as a month. It started as a movement. You might picture Black History Month as something handed down from on high, a formal declaration. The reality is much more grassroots, and it all starts with one man, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. As the son of formerly enslaved parents, Woodson beat incredible odds to eventually earn a PhD from Harvard. But as a historian, he noticed something deeply unsettling. In the great American story, Black people were either footnotes or just completely invisible. The spark for the movement was lit in the summer of 1915. Woodson traveled to Chicago for a national celebration of the 50th anniversary of emancipation. He was inspired as he watched thousands of Black Americans line up to see exhibits on the progress their people had made since the end of slavery. It was a powerful display of pride and a hunger for a history that was actively being denied. This wasn't just a 3-week-long party. It was a moment of profound self-recognition. Woodson realized that waiting for others to validate Black history was a losing game. It had to be claimed. That same year, he and a few others met at a YMCA in Chicago and founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, or ASALH. Their mission was to scientifically document and preserve the stories that textbooks were ignoring. This wasn't just about feeling good. It was an act of intellectual resistance against total erasure. The historian Arturo Schomburg perfectly captured this spirit when he said, "The American Negro must remake his past in order to make his future." And that's exactly what Woodson set out to do. Fact number 2. The strategic genius of February. So, why February? It seems obvious, but the reason is more strategic than you think. In 1926, Woodson and the ASALH launched the very first Negro History Week. He chose the second week of February, and the common explanation is that it contains the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln, February 12th, and Frederick Douglass, February 14th. That's true, but it's only half the story. Black communities had already been celebrating these two men for decades. Woodson, the brilliant strategist, wasn't just picking convenient dates. He was tapping into an existing tradition to launch a much bigger idea. His goal was to reform the tradition, to shift the focus from celebrating two great men to celebrating the history of an entire people. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Black history clubs popped up in schools and communities across the country. Teachers eagerly sought out the study materials, plays, and posters that the ASALH started to produce. This wasn't just a calendar event. It was the birth of a cultural institution, strengthened by figures like Mary McLeod Bethune, who helped bring these stories to an even wider audience. Fact number 3. It became a month thanks to civil rights activists. For 50 years, it was still Negro History Week. So how did a week become a month? The answer lies in the explosive energy of the civil rights and Black Power movements. As Black consciousness surged in the 1960s, so did the demand for a more substantial recognition of Black history. The real turning point happened on a college campus. Proposed by Black educators and students in 1969, the first month-long Black History Month celebration was held at Kent State University in 1970. This wasn't an official holiday. It was a student-led movement demanding that their history be seen and respected on a much larger scale. The idea quickly caught on, spreading to other campuses and community centers across the nation. By 1976, this grassroots pressure had made its way to the White House. It was the nation's bicentennial, a time of deep reflection on 200 years of American history. Recognizing the changing cultural tide, President Gerald R. Ford released the first ever presidential message on Black History Month. He urged Americans to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. It was a landmark moment where the official narrative was finally starting to catch up with what activists had been demanding for years. Fact number 4, the law that cemented its legacy. President Ford's recognition was a huge step, but it wasn't a law. It took another decade for Black History Month to be permanently woven into the fabric of the nation. On October 27, 1986, Congress passed Public Law 99-244, officially designating February as National Black Afro-American History Month. This was more than a symbolic gesture. The law made the celebration a national institution, directing the president to issue a proclamation every single year, calling on the people of the United States to observe the month with appropriate ceremonies and activities. Since Ford's first message in 1976, every U.S. president has issued a proclamation for Black History Month, often highlighting the annual theme set by Woodson's organization, the ASALH. This created a powerful connection, linking a grassroots movement that began in 1915 directly to the highest office in the land, and ensuring the work of remembering could never again be easily dismissed. By the way, if you're learning something new here, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you want to keep exploring the untold stories that shape our world, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Fact number 5. It's guided by a secret weapon: annual themes. Here's a fact almost no one talks about. Black History Month is not just a random collection of historical facts. Since the very beginning, each year has had a specific theme chosen by the ASALH. These themes are a powerful tool for guiding the public's focus towards specific, often overlooked, parts of the Black experience. The themes themselves tell a story of evolving consciousness, covering everything from the history of Black economic empowerment to African Americans and the vote. They act as a guide for educators, creators, and communities, ensuring the conversation stays fresh, relevant, and challenging. And that brings us to right now. The theme for 2026 is especially powerful: a century of Black history commemorations. This year marks the 100th anniversary of that very first Negro History Week. The ASALH is calling on everyone to not just celebrate Black history, but to examine the act of commemoration itself, to ask how these observances have elevated Black status and fought back against erasure, especially at a time when that history is under threat. Fact number 6. It spotlights radical innovation and overlooked genius. At its heart, Black History Month has always been about correcting the record and unearthing stories that were intentionally buried. We're talking about world-changing achievements that your standard history class probably skipped right over. Let's run through a few. Did they teach you about Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, who performed one of the world's first successful open-heart surgeries back in 1893? Or Garrett Morgan, whose 1912 invention of a safety hood became the blueprint for the gas masks that saved countless lives in World War I? Did you learn about Lewis Latimer, the son of self-emancipated slaves, whose invention of a carbon filament made the commercial light bulb cheap and long-lasting? Thomas Edison often gets the sole credit, but without Latimer, his light bulb would have burned out in minutes. The list goes on and on. Patricia Bath's invention of the laser phaco probe in 1988 revolutionized cataract surgery. Dr. Joycelyn Elders became the first African-American Surgeon General in 1993. These aren't just Black achievements, they are human achievements that pushed all of society forward. Black History Month serves as the annual corrective for a historical record that too often ignored them. Fact number 7. It's not just history, it's an ongoing act of resistance. And this brings us to the deepest fact of all. Black History Month was never meant to be a passive glance at the past. From its very beginning, it has been an active, living project of resistance. Dr. Woodson said it best himself, arguing that this work of historical truth was even more critical than the anti-lynching movement, because violence often starts with the lies taught in a schoolroom. Today, that mission is more urgent than ever. Black History Month stands as a powerful counter-narrative at a time of renewed efforts to suppress uncomfortable truths. It embeds the stories of Black labor, from the Pullman porters who helped build the Black middle class to the unseen Rosie the Riveters who powered the war effort, into the American story where they belong. As we stand here in 2026, we are also approaching the 250th anniversary of American independence. The centennial of Black history commemorations happening at the same time is not a coincidence. It's a challenge. It demands that the next chapter of the American story be inclusive and, more importantly, accurate. So, Black History Month is not just a month. It's a movement born from the refusal to be erased. It's a scholarly project that grew into a national institution. And it's an ongoing act of resistance that insists on a fuller, more honest version of history. It's a living testament to the idea that you can't know where you're going until you truly know where you have been. The work that Carter G. Woodson started a century ago is far from finished. It continues in classrooms, in communities, and in conversations just like this one. So this February, don't just celebrate Black history, participate in it. Seek out the histories that have been hidden, share the stories you know, and continue the radical act of remembering. Thanks for watching.